Hi, this is Ashley.
This is Annie.
And Aurelio.
So in this video, we will briefly touch on the big picture of occupational therapy evaluation. In addition to that, we will be showing you our collection of concept maps encompassing the anatomy of the upper extremity, as well as showing you how forces act on those structures.
We also show you our concept map discussion intervention options for clients with neurologic disorders. Lastly, we will discuss how we will use concept maps and tools like XMind to help us study and prepare in the future, both as students and occupational therapists.
So the OT evaluation process begins with formulating the occupational profile through interview, chart review, and observation of the client. Some assessments can be used in this step when trying to get a better picture of your client.
The next part of the OT eval is the analysis of occupational performance, where more observation, task completion, and overall client factor assessment that helps to identify the strengths and weaknesses of that particular client. The assessments used in this part of the OT eval includes any motor, sensory, or cognitive assessment, as well as many others.
As you can see, we have thorough concept maps covering the upper extremity anatomy. These maps are a useful way to organize important information that we will need in almost every diagnosis. Many daily occupations involve the use of upper extremities, and knowledge of this body part is extremely important.
You can see that we have a comprehensive knowledge bank available in the form of these maps. Not only we can use them as a study tools, but we can also use them as reference tools since they are easily accessible.
More portable than a textbook and more organized than information found online, we can get to the information we may need quickly and with little effort. We've included pictures, such as these, to further our learning and provide better references with a visual. The maps are broken up by body part, so you can see shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand, and further by structure type, so muscles, bones, and joints.
We take the concept maps a step further by completing a map about the interventions of a specific type of diagnosis. We choose to complete a map on interventions for clients with neurologic disorders. As you can see, this map covers quite a bit of information.
We have split that information up over several different tabs and in different ways to make sure that the information can be found easily. The information is further broken into categories and color-coded or blocked. You can see that we have tried to tab the information according to topics covered so we have an idea where to look when we need certain things, rather than looking all through our notes or chapters in the book.
This map is really important because an area that we as a group are struggling with is how to take what we know about certain diagnoses or physical disabilities and apply interventions to them. Interventions that we have summarized here. So, having a map specifically about those interventions will help our clinical reasoning in the future.
We can use this to practice case studies and scenarios we apply to information gathered from both this map of intervention strategies and the maps of anatomy. This map is particularly helpful because we have included case studies and the interventions used in those particular clients.
Overall, concept maps can be useful study tools because they help you to build a better understanding of the material by visually illustrating the relationships between concepts and ideas and by making connections among those concepts.
Specifically, one way we can study is by minimizing the subtopics to test ourselves on the information. So for example, we could minimize here. Then we could maximize them again to check and see if we were right or if we need to work on them some more. We can use a color system to identify the information we need to improve on if needed. For example, anything that's yellow, we would say we might need to work on that information.
We can use XMind and concept maps in the future by using them to help us prepare and gather information in one spot to use for field work too. We can also study for the NVCOUNT exam and refer to this information as a quick resource when we are occupational therapists.
It will be nice to have this information close at hand so we don't always have to have all our textbooks and physical notes with us. We can also reduce the amount of notes we have by only putting important keywords and phrases in our maps to lead us to the details and serve as a refresher.
We will add to our bank of concept maps throughout the next semesters as we learn more, so our concept maps are always up to date with our own knowledge. We are excited about using these resources to help us become the best OTs we can be. Part of these resources that we really enjoy are all the different features. So, for example, on my concept map, I have 3 different maps all on one instead of breaking it up into different tabs like we have down here, or into different maps like we have up here. So I like doing that because it's a similar topic. They're all different case studies. And I wanted them, equally accessible so we could compare and contrast the differences that people did on their goals or what their different background is like. So I like being able to have that option if I want to have different maps on the same page. Another thing that I really enjoy is having these extra little floating boxes because they're not exactly related to what I'm talking about here, but they're indirectly related. So, like this one says, activity card sort would be a good assessment to use with this type of diagnosis. So, that's just a side note because, we've been talking about different types of assessments in our past semester. So, I thought I'd kind of integrate that information into this map. You can also see that I've referred back to the textbook for something that's super detailed, tips on how to do the compensatory strategy training. I also have the little arrows that you can see here linking those ideas to the specific topic that they're related to. So like whereas this floating box doesn't really specifically go with any different box here, these do. So I wanted to make sure that I knew which one I was referring to when I have them in here. So for example, you can see I mentioned stages in this box and I elaborate on what those stages are down here. I also have my information blocked together. So instead of just having the branches come down and the information here, I've further separated them by having the different color boxes going around them. So it really differentiates the information, and I'm very organized on, which information is what. I'm not confused as to whether this box goes here. So those are features that I like.
Okay, next when we're talking about the pictures that are within the concept maps, I like to take pictures from the chapters that relates to the topic I put on my concept maps. So you see here, there's this picture from that subtopic. And then I also like to color code everything to separate them even more. I also like to use a type of structure for the topics. So I would go to this tab. So how I like to organize my concept map is by the different structures that they provide. So you would click on this box and then you see that they have different structures for you. So you can change it to like a fishbone if you wanted to, or how I like it is the timeline vertical. So that's how I like to read my notes from top to bottom, and then they have different subtopic that come out of them. And then after that, I like to color code all my topics to different colors to even separate them even more. And I also like to put pictures that relate to the topics within the chapters. So under the topic, a new outcome variable amount of use, this picture was provided and that would help me to study for that topic. And I also have different color branches. And how I do that is just click the outside and then click this property button, and then you have this multi-branch colors. So when you unclick that, it's all black, but when you click on it, there's different colors that come out of each of the lines.
So the way that I like to organize my concept maps is going through the chapter and looking at the heading titles and doing a separate branch from each one. Yeah, so it's the task based. So the general title would be General Principles for OT Interventions to Improve Motor Performance. And from there, each sub heading would be the task based interventions, therapist as a coach, nature of practice. So I go through each one, I read it, and I select main ideas from each paragraph under that subheading, and I make a different box under that. So as you can see, in these, so sitting and standing balance would fall under how patients can be independent in their everyday lives. And
So this one is categorized by the functional use and mobility. So everything that's related to mobility or functional use is in this category. So you can see the different headings: seated position in bed, getting up and down, ambulation, and then this has to do specifically with the upper arm. So as you can see, this was color coded as well. So we all like to use different colors. But these resources are all very helpful in our studying, and we like being able to use the different backgrounds and different colors to differentiate the information. So this is one of the many tools in our toolbox that we plan to use in the future.
Thanks for listening and learning with us.